Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another reward hour. It's our November one today, and I'm so thrilled to have Giac joining us to talk about, everything in reward, but specifically moving from experiments to enterprise value when we think about AI in rewards. Giac, over to you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Vaso, and welcome everyone. My name is Giac, short for Giacomo, originally from Italy. I've been in the reward space for about 12 years now. I always say compensation, I didn't choose compensation. Compensation chose me. It's somewhat new. I had a secret crush for imperfect data, human bias, and just people moaning about their pay all the time. Well, 12 years after, here we are, still in working compensation. I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been a consultant for 7 years at a company called Hay Group, now Conferry and Mercer. And then I've moved into high growth tech companies, the likes of TikTok, Snapchat, and more recently Monzo. And even more recently, I've been focusing on Comtech. I write a newsletter, Comtech Roundup, and AI adoption and applications and rewards. I'm really excited to be talking about this topic today and to join Vaz on this conversation.
Just to say, Jack, I'm a massive fan, massive groupie. I follow your posts. I read everything. Thanks for the content and the insight. And I'm really excited to chat with you today about everything we should be thinking about in AI. For those of you joining for the first time, I'm Vaso. I'm the Chief People Officer here at Ravio. Ravio aims to make compensation work for everyone and eliminate all the pain points that Jacques described just now, and working steadily towards the mission to make comp less painful. So great. Well, let's get stuck in. So in part one of this conversation, we're going to be talking about basically career paths and AI skills for reward teams. Now, I'm just going to publish a poll here for the audience to participate in and let us know what everyone's current level of knowledge is with AI, and it should sort of pop up on the screen in a couple of seconds. And then, as people are filling in the poll, it would be great to. I mean, Jack, just out of curiosity, mostly, what is your? I mean, what's your day-to-day use of AI in your sort of normal BAU work?
Great question. So I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to this. I used to be on Netflix most of my evenings, weekdays. Now I'm most of the time on ChatGPT and Claude because I'm generally excited about the opportunity. And yes, sometimes I do feel lonely and want to chat with someone, but that's not pretty much the case. It's mostly because things are happening so quickly, and the amount of like AI itself helps me keeping up with these trends. So I've got a book that I'm reading with AI. I've got a newsletter transcript that I'm reading. I'm also doing a lot of financial planning and things like that, and planning my day ahead. Really, yes, I'm still keeping some time for leisure activities. But the thing is, you can really have fun with AI without being planning your next holiday. I mean, that's fun. Or thinking about work. There are things you can ask it that is generally entertaining, such as I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy, and I've always wondered how do these folks do it? Like especially in prompt.
Yeah.
So like, how do they do it? So Gen AI is helping me, and when I say Gen AI, for just to make sure we're on the same page, is your default large language module that generate content. That's where Gen AI comes from, right? So I use it in all sorts of ways, both for my personal, in my personal time and my professional work. I also review a lot of features that are being released by compensation technology vendors, working with their product teams and design teams to test them out. So that's the other like more professionalist driven use that I'm making of AI, testing things with them, for them, and giving them feedback on potential product market fit of these new applications.
Yeah, well, what an amazing customer and future customer you are of these tools. That's amazing. But it's also interesting to see the breadth of like experimentation that you're using Gen AI for. And yeah, I mean, looking at the audience poll, interesting. So we have a huge majority that says we, and like me, use Gen AI for generic like stuff, day-to-day stuff. Slack, emails, writing a particularly difficult, I don't know, email to a disgruntled employee, for example, that kind of thing. 22% have said they use it to test specific use cases. 19% are actively using an AI workflow in their role, which is great to see. And do, by the way, to the audience, do feel free to add in the chat functionality, like any nuance or also any questions. We'll be getting to them maybe hopefully in real time, but if not, then at the end. And then 14% are exploring what's possible. 0% are using several multiplayer AI agents in their day-to-day, which I'm not surprised by, because we're probably still in the sort of level 1. Well, speaking for myself, I'm definitely a level 1 user for now.
And I think that's where most people are at, to be honest. And I think this poll results also are confirmation of that.
Yeah.
There are two different sides of the story here. Like there are vendors of AI tools that are racing to release the next generation of features. So technology development is going at extreme speeds. And then there's AI adoption in HR and reward, which for very good reasons, people are taking their time to fully understand what they're dealing with, how to best adopt it, how to adopt it ethically, responsibly, effectively. And it's totally fine. Like no one's, yes, there are first mover advantages. But I can count like the reward leaders that I've spoken to recently, I can count in one hand those that have told me I've released AI applications built in-house that do work for me. So it's not just about generating content. They have access to tools. The AI has access to tools and like does the work for you with a human in the loop. So really, it's totally fine if we're all in that, but most of us are in that situation, because this new technology development is unprecedented. Yes, we had in the past 30 years, the internet, the telephone, but the speed at which things are changing with AI is exponential compared to other innovations. So it's normal that people are taking their time, but use that time wisely. And if you've dialed in this webinar, it's because you are probably serious about it and you're thinking about how you can use it to your advantage. And that's one of the questions that we're going to answer today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think one thing that would be interesting to me would be if the audience, if you're not feeling shy, do let us know in the chat what's like one workflow that is particularly painful that you'd love to automate with AI. And maybe Giac can help you, or we can find someone who can make that happen. But Giac, what would you say, for a reward professional like our audience who's curious about AI, but is sort of a little bit overwhelmed and doesn't know where to start? Because as you say, the opportunity is sort of so huge and fast moving. What would you advise them to consider as the first step to like get started, basically?
I used AI to run our whole merit cycle, saved millions, fixed pay equity, and everyone was thrilled.
Wow.
Now, skill number one for a word professional, do not believe any word that I said right there. Like that, like I'm genuinely serious. You need a strong skeptic muscle so that whenever you see big AI promises about merit cycles, market benchmarks, pay equity analysis, something in your brain needs to like flash warning.
Yeah,
Skill number
scary.
two,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the first, like having a sound and good amount of skepticism because there are a lot of false promises out there that I'm still not like entirely sure about. Skill number two is learning to love learning. Like AI and reward is, as we said, like moving incredibly fast. New tools, regulations, new game-changing features posted by some vendors, not Ravio. And this happens every month. I cover them in a newsletter. If your mindset is, oh, like another thing to learn, AI will just feel exhausting. If you treat it instead as a structured tinkering and playing exercise, you will cope a lot better. And that's why I said I play with AI as well in the evening. I don't rely on it just for more professional stuff, but it's generally I'm creating a connection with this new tool that resembles a bit more um, a toy that I had when I was younger. And with that perspective, you create an entirely different relationship with AI that will help you, move from that feeling I don't want to do this to like being genuinely excited and putting your back into it.
It's almost like it's a hobby, right? Like it's a hobby that you need to sort of build the critical thinking and then skill of how to use it first. And then the natural, hopefully the natural output will keep getting better and better. But yeah, I completely agree about having, building the muscle of skepticism and being wary of some of the outputs that you might be getting, and using that sort of the sniff test. Basically, does this pass the sniff test?
Yeah, it's generally remembering that learning is supposed to be fun and
Mm.
to mind yourself to have fun while you're learning. Skill number three, in fact, is sharing what you have learned with others, which can also be fun. People often ask, how do they get ideas and visibility? I get it all the time when I write content on LinkedIn. How did you come up with that idea? Well, most of it comes from just experimenting things, from doing things, from trying user cases, seeing what has worked, what has failed, and sharing that journey with other reward leaders and HR leaders. That is where we get tracks inbound opportunities. So if you can really nail those three things, skepticism about hype, enjoyment of the learning experience, of the learning process, and sharing your learnings along the way, then you can start thinking more strategically about developing your personal AI fluency,
Mhm.
which can come in many different shapes.
Talk to us about that. What do you think? Are any of us going to become AI engineers in the near future? What do you think of the different grades, basically, of AI fluency?
Brilliant. So let's since you mentioned it, the goal is not to become an AI engineer, right? A lot of people might think, oh gosh, I need to learn this technical skill that I can barely scratch my head and conceptualize it. But really, it's not about that. It's becoming a sound and reliable operator with AI who can shape and challenge AI output. So what that means in a few sentences, I mentioned the shapes of it. Like, so the first one is definitely AI awareness, understanding the different types of AI models and tools. I can tell you which ones I use in my personal life in a minute,
Mhm.
how these tools work, what each can do and can't do, how to assess which one the right time. Because ultimately, it's about finding the right tool at the right time for the right purpose. So that AI awareness is critical. Um, it starts with keeping abreast of the AI news. Like I, for instance, use Perplexity for keeping up with trends in Comtech, in AI, and AI rewards. I get daily I've set up a task where I get daily like roundup of the news that helps me keep up with what OpenAI, Anthropic, and the likes of are working on. And it's far more powerful than ChatGPT for research purposes, like generally. And if you have PayPal, by the way, you can sign up for 1 year free subscription with Perplexity. I'm not affiliated. I've just done it myself. So it's just,
Sorry, Giac, was that if you're with PayPal, did you say?
yeah, if you haven't had a PayPal account, a few months ago, they've had, I think still now, but they have this subscription where, just you log in with PayPal and suddenly you get 1 year for free of Perplexity. That's how they lock you in, because once you find out how cool it is, I already know I'm going to pay for it when that 1 year trial ends. But anyway, going back to our shades of AI fluency, AI awareness was the first. The second is data literacy. So what that means is understanding what data you have. And that's so important in the compensation field, because if your job architecture, if your employee data is out of touch, you're going to have some issues if you have AIs, tools working with that data. So learn first yourself how to analyze it, interpret it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to judge if it's doing a good job or not, right? And this includes AI generated insights. At the more advanced level, this could look like structuring data and building AI workflows, training models, automations, agents, custom GPT. But this we're talking about at least a year from now, like for most teams. So no need to worry too much about that. But data literacy, yes, that's probably your first step. Advanced analytics is the third shade of AI awareness. Using AI to analyze patterns, predict outcomes, generate insights. That is something that existed before AI, but now has become even more prevalent and important with the use of AI. And finally, I think we mentioned prompt engineering, which is a very, very common buzzword nowadays, but that makes all the difference. Like, I cannot stress this too much, like enough. When I started focusing on how I was writing responses and prompts to large language modules like ChatGPT, the accuracy of the output changed completely. And I can send you like a prompt optimizer that I've built that will help you get started with this. But ultimately, you're going to become fluent yourself if you pay attention to the principles of what makes a prompt good and like good quality and clean. And really, that's an important skill that anyone that's thinking about adopting more AI, both in their personal life and professional life, should be thinking about. Learning how to refine these prompts, because they won't refine themselves alone. Like you need to input something.
You need to help them. Yeah.
And only then you can think about building workflows and automations and all of that jazz. There's also something to say about, should I build something myself? Should I buy something off the shelf? We can get into that a little bit later, but definitely, there's a framework that you should have to decide when to buy, when to build. Because let's face it, like reward teams they've got so much meat on their plate already. Like, just to say something about the EU Pay Transparency Directive, which is going to be an eye opener for so many. Like, that already is putting so much pressure on reward teams that a lot of them are like, oh gosh, now I need another thing to think about, another thing to worry about. Well, no, like there's no rush to build those workflows and automations. The first thing that you really need to focus on is making sure you feel comfortable using AI tools and you understand the mechanics. Then you can think about all these workflows and automations that will definitely make your life easier, but you're gonna be a human in the loop will always be needed. So again, the goal is not to become an AI engineer, is to become the best operator you can be that can shape and challenge AI outputs.
Yeah, absolutely. One question that sort of popped up, and Arif has, hi Arif, nice to see you, has asked it already, but it's front of mind for me as well. For many of us, especially folks who are working in bigger, in very big organizations, it can be really difficult to use, any sort of AI tools due to limitations on what tools information security or IT or whoever it is that's looking after compliance, uh, demands of us. Um, how have you overcome that, or what? Any advice? Any help?
Well, I think Arif, you raise a very valid point because it's one of the reasons why a lot of compensation teams are not like jump into the bandwagon, because your relationship with IT is fundamental in getting this right. Data security and governance is a huge part of it. Yes, I know, very boring, but absolutely critical. But
Very.
it's things like, where is the data housed? Is it staying within your HRIS or data warehouse, or is it going to an external vendor? What kind of arrangements and contractual guarantees and certifications do you have in place with the vendor to make sure that if something goes wrong, you've got some, disaster recovery, plans in place and tools to prevent that disaster from arising? What protections, in other ways of saying it, are in place for your proprietary data, your confidential pay ranges, your equity grant values? If you're doing M&A, your deal terms, who can see that on the other side of the fence? This is in the case you're, buying these tools. Like, all of these are fundamental questions, and it is testament to the fact that whenever you build or buy AI tools, it's not a rewards team effort alone, not even an HR team effort alone. That's why it's so important to have your engineering teams, your data security and privacy teams on top of it, because they can help with all these nuances that can really derail you from your goal. I didn't mention DPIA document for disaster recovery, but that's also important. Your audit logs. I mean, again, very boring, super technical, but this is what reward teams, to Arif's point, should be thinking about when they're adopting AI tools if they want to do it securely.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, and also very sort of panic inducing when you start thinking about, the worst case scenario of, I don't know, data leak into the AI ether or something like that, feels very existential and scary.
Yeah, and there was some news a few months ago that people's chats from ChatGPT and Claude were starting to appear on Google searches. Now that is a nice, like, ringing bell for anyone that had thought, why do I need to get IT and legal involved? I could probably use ChatGPT because everyone has access to it. But this is one of the main risks that we're talking about. The moment you plug in any personal sensitive data in your personal ChatGPT account or cloud account, your risk of breaking not one but many laws. Hence why many companies have now negotiated large language modules licenses at a corporate level. So they got a corporate license,
Mm.
so employees can input data there, because it's that those chats are not used for training purposes, and
Mm.
data is
It's
stored
encrypted. Yeah.
locally. Exactly. So very important call out that we need to make. But moving back to the conversations about skills, there's something I'm really passionate about that I forgot to say, because everyone in HR is chasing AI skills right now, from prompting to tools, even AI agents that can do magical things for you. The thing we're not talking about, though, is, which is actually priceless, is human judgment. Whenever a new technology arrives, like AI has, it does it does not magically remove all the problems. It simply moves the bottleneck. What I mean by that is, in any reward process, there's always one step that is really hard to get right. In the past, that bottleneck was manual work, which required advanced Excel skills. I remember, preparing these interviews tasks for analysts to actually see in real life how good their Excel skills were. Familiarity with statistical analysis techniques like the least squares method, also very important if you did work in, or you do work in pay equity analysis, running a rationale of that. That was slow and expensive. So we were staffing a lot for it. AI and reward tech is changing exactly that. A lot of the heavy lifting we were doing in Excel is now automated and accelerated. And the bottleneck is no longer just advanced data analytics skills, market benchmarking knowledge. It is human judgment. Judgment is the mix of pattern recognition, right? From past merit cycles, deeper understanding, all of that. If you rely only on what you've seen in the past, your decisions become sort of copy and paste and helpful. Instead, but if you rely only on local office politics or what you hear and the optics issue that are presented to you from reward partners, HRBPs, and the business, you might miss the bigger evidence of what the market benchmarks are telling you, what your regulatory analysis is telling you. We have never really taught sound judgment in reward. People are expected to join teams, to pick it up, sitting next to a more senior reward partner, joining comp offer negotiations, or even watching their head of rewards articulate their arguments and influencing at the executive level. I mean, that all is great. It works when the bottleneck is modeling Excel, building processes in Workday or Airtable, but it does not work when the bottleneck is judgment itself. And that's something that AI modules, by definition, by design, are not good at. Like, they're good at so many things, but human judgment is still something that they haven't honed yet. Now, the return of good judgment is huge because it is the main constraint of how you value what you get from AI and reward. So how do we practice good judgment? Again, it all starts with learning. We go back to the learning topic again. Learn to spot edge cases in investment levels. Like, where are you investing most of your time? Not just in your personal space. I mentioned that people are playing with ChatGPT at night, but also in your private space. Where are you spending most of your cognitive effort, your budget, if you have a learning budget? It's a case like you want to make sure you bend the guidelines a bit, but you also want to be like, you want to stay on track. What I mean by that is, even if you don't have a learning budget, you can still practice explaining why you decided to invest a bit more here, why you decided to invest a bit more there, how you're articulating your rationale. And like, I've been in both camps, and what I'm seeing is that AI it's blurring the lines between the role of an internal reward partner and an external consultant. In many companies I spoke to recently, there's now like a small group of people who are the AI people inside HR. They get pulled into projects well beyond the original job descriptions because they are able to consistently show good judgment about where AI can generally add value and rewards, and which stakeholders are affected and what risk needs to be managed. That is the sweet spot. Like, first and foremost, like, let's not assume AI will do that. We will, in the age of AI where it's being commoditized, we all have access to it and it's cheap or free. Human judgment is the skill that's becoming more scarce. So again, to practice it, I wouldn't rely only on osmosis, but then by that I mean like the unconscious process of absorbing knowledge through indirect exposure to senior people, which is great. That's fine. We all rely on that. But instead, build those habits that force you to make your reasoning explicit, test it, get feedback, iterate. That's the skill we need in the age of AI, because what is happening in this world where AI is free, accessible, and all of that is that we risk giving into the temptation of lingering in our comfort zone and switching off our brain completely, which prevents sound judgment. Now, sorry, I know I rambled a lot in that because I'm really passionate about this, but it's a constant battle every day also for me because I get so comfortable when I talk to AI because it's so cheering and so fast. Well, I designed a prompt that turned my large language model, whichever you use, Claude, ChatGPT. Um, I designed it that it turns ChatGPT in the most annoying creature ever, but also a reliable intellectual partner that challenges my assumptions constructively, pushes me towards greater clarity, accuracy, and just intellectual honesty.
Mm.
Like if anyone's interested in this prompt, drop me a DM on LinkedIn after the webinar. I'm more than happy to share it with you because it's going to really help you keep the conversation honest and avoid the temptation of brain rot.
Yeah, that I'll be following up for sure, Jack. But I think there's also something around, around developing that, critical thinking, sort of nous. There's also something, I mean, yeah, definitely learning, definitely absorbing by osmosis, but then also I guess making the errors that lead to learning if you reflect on the errors. So, error plus reflection equals growth. I think actually that's also one of Ray Dalio's sort of principles, but it's something that I believe very strongly in. And so, going through that process with anything, not just sort of AI learning and adoption, can really sort of, elevate you to the next level. But you can't do it without failure. So if you haven't made mistakes, or if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough to develop the critical thinking and professional growth that we need in order to make the best use of AI in our worlds. Okay, we've got a bunch of questions. Olga, hi, nice to see you. Olga's asking, what's the best practice for creating a central AI steering committee, which involves HR, IT, and legal, to approve, monitor, and deprovision potentially AI tools? Olga has a feeling that with such an active adoption of AI and coordinated implementation of various AI agents across different departments is leading to a fractured AI landscape.
Great point, Olga. Well, first, I think it's really, I mean, reward people can do many things, but if there's one that probably as an in-house reward expert, you shouldn't be doing, like thinking about, oh, it's my job to build like an AI comedy. Well, yes, I think reward people should be in this committee, but it's not up to them to set up this committee, right? It's up to the company you work for to come up with a broad for AI adoption strategy, how they see AI being adopted in the company, and then ask each department, including reward, provide me with some strong user cases and a plan on how you're thinking about it and how you're gonna adopt more AI. So yes, I mean, building a committee itself, probably something that the governance of the company should be about. And I'm sure they're gonna make sure that the board is, the representation is differentiated, that there are experts in AI, but also experts in your organization, because ultimately an AI expert without context will not do a great job at identifying opportunities. You need someone that knows the organization inside out, and who better than the people that actually work in the organization. So it's probably good to have representatives, not just on the tech side, but like subject matter experts from each department that can tell the governance board more about how they plan on implementing AI. And then of course you will have your legal experts. They will review regulations to make sure that you adhere to those. You have your IT and data security experts. They will work with the department leads to ensure that you're making sure there's no data leaks, that you're choosing providers wisely with all the certifications in place. So it's definitely a joint effort, but I would say it's not up to any reward leader to start thinking, hey, I'm gonna build an comedy in my company, because we are, again, our job is to be sound operators of AI, not much creators of a new ecosystem or something magical.
Couldn't agree more. And Olga, we've got enough problems. Like we've got enough on our plate. We've got enough that gets like landed on us. I think this massive governance issue is one that we should support, but maybe not one to lead on. Yeah, that sounds like a problem that I don't want to have anytime soon. Related, I'm just gonna publish another poll, which is around what use cases we've already used AI for in relation to reward. Again, mostly out of curiosity to see how how we're all sort of thinking about it. But yeah, and I think it would be interesting to see, when we should, based on the answers, what we should be, what's the riskiest to sort of element.
I wonder if, just looking at poll results, not sure if they're live yet. I can see them.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting because employee comms is currently number 1. So I see employee comms as the most human element of the task we do, because a lot of people will not be happy talking about pay and their performance and discussing how the year went with a AI chatbot.
Yeah.
But definitely what an AI chatbot can do is prepare talking points for managers. There's plenty of evidence that works. But just interesting in terms of where could we start? Let's see if it comes out from the chat. But if it doesn't come from the poll, the chat, I will name it. Like, it's the most boring thing ever, but generally it's very low risk, and any generic large language module right now can do it, which is writing job descriptions. I literally get job descriptions written in 15 minutes with my corporate larger language module license.
Yeah.
And I can tell it does a decent job. Like, I would probably spend an hour writing it myself. I already get to a good starting point after 15 seconds. And then it's just making sure I add extra context and, tailor it to the specific circumstances. But that's probably the first user case I would target, because it's so low risk and you don't need any fancy tool or subscription to do it, because everyone has access to ChatGPT, and you're not feeding it any confidential information. You're just asking it to describe a job based on a rough transcript or description you gave it.
Totally. And as you say, it gets you within seconds, 90% of the way there. And then it's so much easier to work with a draft than it is to start with like that cursor on a white page. And then just seeing other things that have come up, how we use AI in the chat. Career frameworks, job architecture, more employee comms, but definitely, I can definitely see a big use case for the leveling frameworks, especially if you're going position specific. That can be a quick win, and again, get you 80% of the way there, and within minutes again.
I really like just reading on the chat. I really like Avri's point about having a self-service touch point for business partnering, because reward teams, they get tons of questions that sometimes you're like, this person probably hasn't read the guidance, or this hasn't read the employee handbook. And for those questions that you don't even need to switch your brain on, because you already know the answer, you've told people so many times, you can probably have, you know, an AI chatbot or Gemini Gem or custom GPT preparing those answers for you, and then it's a matter of, you know, the human checks that the answers are correct and simply copy and pasting. That's the power of AI automation. Like, it's freeing up time for questions that do require a lot of critical thinking and a little bit of careful stakeholder management, because as you know this our domain rewards tends to be quite emotive and sensitive. So really like that. And Sandrine also said she developed a custom GPT for a client based on their policies. Would love to know more about that. I know that you can attach um, documents and all sorts of, you know, files to a custom GPT to tailor the context that is using. So when it uses tokens, it's not just, you know, looking for answers anywhere in the web, but it's looking exactly at those documents. And you can be even more specific and say it within this document, you know, look at this section, because that reduces the window of reasoning. And we said it, all of this is probabilistic in nature, but if you reduce the possibilities and direct your GPT exactly to the knowledge it needs to formulate an answer, then it can be very effective. So it's great to see that other people in the work community are building custom GPTs and chatbots to serve these purposes.
Really, really interesting. And anything to stop the sort of well, to more effectively deal with the barrage of questions from, you know, 1,001 different different sources. So I guess going back to well, thinking about responsible AI sort of use and governance. How, yeah, we've talked about sort of managing the risk responsibly, but in the absence of, for example, signing up with a corporate you know, account, is there anything else, and the critical thinking sort of muscle, is there anything else that you would yeah, that you would recommend?
Sure. I can share a little bit more about my framework for
Yeah.
adopting AI, because we've spoken a bit about where to get started, how to get started. We've spoken about target skills, and my whole argument was, you know, it's not only about technical skills. It's most importantly about learning and sound judgment. But we haven't said much about, you know, a framework that you can use to make those kind of decisions and drive the adoption. Um, I'd answer that by saying, first, you don't need like a AI grand strategy. You need something simple that any reward person like myself and you can actually run with. And I like to think of it in 5 steps. Like, the first step is to set your principles before you know, before tools and vendors make these principles explicit. Um, the first one, like, humans own the decisions. AI is an assistant, not an authority. Yes, it can automate the workflows for you if it has connections and is linked to tools, but ultimately, the human will be always responsible for the decision. If you go to trial, if your company goes to trial, it's not the AI going to be on the main seat. It's going to be a
No.
human, right? Every use case must be supported by your pay philosophy, your legal obligations, and privacy standards. If a use case conflicts with any of these, it is out. No matter what, no matter how clever it's being pitched, no matter how clever it's being sold, it's probably not a great use for you. So first, set your principles. Second, pick the right starting tasks. And we delved into this a bit. Use employee comms, job description drafting. My personal framework is to start small and boring, because I'm a bit risk averse. But that's why I'm now more comfortable taking
Yeah.
on more work and delegating more work to my AI agents. So drafting job descriptions, data cleansing for the comp cycle, drafting first cuts, manager comps, all these were things I was doing last year. And now my AI agents are doing more and more. Summarizing survey comments as well. If you're running employee engagement surveys, or maybe a questionnaire after your pay cycle to check out how it's been going, that's also a very good user case. That's very risk averse. Spotting outliers in merit proposals. Now, this is something you need proper training. The AI module needs proper training on, right? So start small, pick the right task, and then progressively move on to tasks that are more probabilistic in nature, like determining someone's pay increase. Yes, you can have a formula, but there's hundreds of data points and context that may result in an override. You really want to be automating some of that, but making sure you keep a human in the loop. So really, it's the high volume, low drama work that I would start from automating without letting the AI decide things like base pay. This will let you, as a reward professional, learn how AI works and behaves with your data without making huge mistakes. To your point, Vaso, yes, it's an iterative process, but you really want to avoid making those huge mistakes that lead in, unfair pay claims and the sorts of.
Yeah. And then break trust irrevocably. There are some things you can't come back from. So you want to avoid those mistakes.
Exactly. And step 3 of my framework is to define the inputs and outputs and how we want to get things done. I'm never sick of hammering on this. Your AI is as good as much as your data is. So if your job architecture is suboptimal, let's say, if your employee data is off, if your job level to job mapping is wrong, your AI will only multiply those errors. So make sure you get those right. For each task, be almost painfully clear what data can the AI see and what must it never see, especially if you're using tools that are external in nature, and you might want to ensure how you're sharing data with them, either with API or SFTP. If you share that data, make sure you have a very good business reason for doing it, and that there are security protocols in place to prevent leaks. That is what differentiates a good input from a bad input. And then the 4th step is building that human in the loop, those human checkpoints that I've mentioned earlier. I like to think of AI as a very, very savvy and fast analyst. You still have the reward partner or your HRBP reviewing recommendations, checking for bias, challenging all results, putting in hard stops. For example, anything outside of your merit cycle guidelines, anything touching a protected characteristic or ethnical group, let's say, anything over a certain budget threshold that would trigger a compensation committee review of the decision. Anything explicitly not human needs to be checked by a human. Wrap that into your normal governance cycle, because it's going to save you tons of time and headaches in the future. Make sure you have DPIAs in place. Make sure you have written approval from legal. Make sure you have your audit logs of the decisions that AI made. Make sure you can explain them by looking at the training you've given it. And lastly, 5 is learning and then scaling, which goes back to the point, start small and then. So for each comp cycle, where did AI generally save you time and improve quality? Look back at these things, right? And learn from them. Where did people make overrides to the AI recommendation and why? Use those to refine your prompts, your AI training module. Use it to tighten data access. If you see that someone got access to data they shouldn't have had because AI probably leaked some information it shouldn't have, and kill those user cases if you can, because they're not worth the risk. You want to make sure you don't take this risk with confidential data like pay and performance. Only once something is consistently reliable, then you can think about automating it and rolling it out to all managers. So I've always adopted a progressive approach. I would first release a new AI tool to the most senior exec folks in the team in the context of pay planning, and then a layer below, and then all managers. And that gives us time to test how responsible the AI is, how effective it is at generating the outcomes we want. Again, AI doesn't replace judgment, so all of these guardrails are in place exactly for that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And thanks for the insight. And yeah, definitely on board with testing out with a small, very contained group right at the top, then trickling down, checking what else, if you're getting any hallucinations or weirdness at the next level, and then before sort of releasing to everyone. We've got a sort of 9 minutes or so, but I also wanted to touch on benchmarking. How do you think AI will change how we think about benchmarking over the next few years, months, years?
Look, I'm so excited about AI and benchmarking because I've seen it playing out in real time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of tedious work in benchmarking that with AI we will be able to expedite. One good example is if you're building salary ranges and you want to make sure that the structure is consistent, that is catering, that is built for encouraging pay progression, not pay compression. AI can help you with automating bandwidth and creating band structures that are optimized in terms of your midpoint progression, your overlap between your band min and band max. So all these analytical, like in nature, like tasks, AI can really do well if you train it. When I say that is, you probably don't want to get your like ChatGPT to do this sort of things. They're called large language, not numbers modules on purpose. You want to build something, maybe a chat like a custom GPT is a good, or even Claude Code. We haven't talked about Claude Code, but that's the most shocking in a positive way tool that I've used most recently. That is expediting a lot of the work, but maybe for another time because we're running short of time. Going back to benchmarking, that's all the stuff that AI can do for you. It can optimize your width, your technical indicators, and then because it knows that market data is imperfect, it can help you check faster and quicker how those bands that it designed actually maps to the market. So it really can make like benchmarking, like it can make wonders with the data. And it's again market data, so it's data that many other companies have access to. It's not your employee data, which is a different breed of data.
Yeah.
So I definitely see more and more AI applications coming in, helping with the most tedious and analytical parts of benchmarking. But let's not make a fool of ourselves by thinking that we can just switch off our brain. If like you will still be in the loop to check that those bands that were designed are actually the intended outcome, and you'll be there checking that what the AI is telling you and it's correct. Like it's telling you, oh yeah, your band max now that we've applied this auto smoothing is 10% away from the P75. Many tools can hallucinate because they are built to satisfy your needs and to please you. So it's always good to check that, is it actually saying the right thing? Is it doing the right thing? So yes, it's gonna expedite tool, but we're still gonna be there to supervise their work. It's not that we're gonna close a blind eye and just grab the work and copy and paste it. It's going to be a partnership between your AI reward analysts and the human in the loop, your human reward people, to make sure that those outcomes are the right ones for your company.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'd love to. We need to do another session on Claude. You said I'm interested.
Cloud Code, yes, is I'll just say a few things. The
Yeah,
great about Cloud
totally.
Code is that it has access, direct access to your computer folders. So it removes all that friction of copying and pasting content, attaching documents that we normally do with other tools, including the normal version of Claude. With Claude Code, you can literally open, a box, a chat box. Tell it to go inside this folder. Tell it to look specifically at this topic, and then without need for coding knowledge, you can prompt it and generate the outcome you want. I know it's a bit generic. I can show you an example, perhaps in the next webinar, how it looks, and we can pull it up and see it in real time. And actually, you've given me a good idea. I'll also post about this on LinkedIn next, because
Yeah.
it's really insane what it can do with minimal coding language. Like, really, you don't need to be. It's like coding to the power of 5. Like, you provide the prompt and it codes for you.
That I'm so excited. I'm so excited for your life-changing LinkedIn update, where we get to see and benefit from your geeking out on all things AI. Um, we had one more question from Ulrika, but I also thought there was another one, but I can't find it right now. So Ulrika has asked, is there any AI functionality built into Ravio? So there's a few features. This isn't a Ravio plug. This is a safe space, and I'm sure many of our great competitors also have great features. But yeah, in Ravio we have. For some of our markets, it's very clearly identified when the data is from Ravio IQ, which basically means it's the output of a model rather than real data points. But it's very it's very clearly indicated, so you wouldn't be making you wouldn't be making a false assumption. And then for benchmarking actual like roles. I'm glad to say that obviously there's a lot of automation in the background, but the final result is most definitely checked by humans, one by one, line by line, because it's a big one. It's a big one to get wrong on that one. Great. So we've got 2 minutes. Any other questions or observations or horror stories?
Well, I'll take the. I really I was pleased to see so much engagement in the chat, with so many of you chiming in to tell us how you're using AI, what your plans are to adopt it more in across your teams and in your company. I'm gonna post my framework, the framework I mentioned briefly, in plain English, so it's easier for everyone to digest. And I'm also gonna share that prompt that I've mentioned that turns ChatGPT or any large language module you use from being a cheerful tool that tends to agree with you and lie in a very confident way, to a very annoying creature, but one that will help you practice that skill that in the age of AI, where AI is becoming a commodity, it's becoming more and more priceless, which we said is practicing human judgment. So happy to share those two. If you need it quick, do send me a DM on LinkedIn. I'll be able to share it sooner rather than later. If not, I know that there's always a great community of Ravio people in Slack that posts ideas from these reward hours. So I'm sure that it's gonna pop up there too.
Yes, for sure. I would put a lot of money on that. Giac, you've been a great guest. Our audience has been amazing. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Giac, for the insight and the great conversation. And I feel we'll have another one of these.
I'm in, and for whoever is joining the social drinks at Ravio tonight, I'm happy to continue a conversation there.
Awesome. All right, team. Great to see everyone, and see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.